Howdy, parents. Hopefully, you have received and reviewed your child's middle of the year MAP scores that I shared with you on Parent Square. Feel free to contact me if you need help opening the attachment or have not received them yet. The purpose of this video is to provide a simple explanation of the report that I shared with you. At the bottom of this newsletter, you'll find a video that I have shared before in the past explaining what MAP growth assessment is and a reference guide to this report. Now, so here's an example of a report that I sent home. This report is called what we call the Student Progress Report. And I like it because it shows how our children are progressing over time when they take the MAP test. Now, for most parents, your report will look similar to this one that I'm showing, but there will be some that will not look similar to this. It's either because your child was in kindergarten or it was your child's first time to take the MAP test because they are new at Alton. So they're slightly different, but I'll share that information here in a minute. Now, the first thing you'll notice, of course, is the bars on the bar graph. It's a bar graph. And your child is indicated on the graph by the blue bar. So on this one right here, in the fall of 2022, this student on a bar graph scored what we call a 179 RIT score. What is a RIT score? A RIT score is a reflection of your child's growth in academic knowledge and skills and abilities. Think of the RIT score not like what we usually got when we were in school, when we took a test and we got a grade. Think of it more like you're marking the height on a growth chart. You can tell how tall your child is at various points in time and how much they have grown between one stage to the other. So you can see on this bar graph, again, your child is in the blue. This child has scored a 179 RIT score. Now, the orange bar is the district grade level average RIT score. And we can see that the average for the fall of 2022, the RIT score was a 169 for this grade level. And I believe this was in second grade. The student is now a third grader. And then you see the 175 in yellow. Well, that is the average RIT score nationally for all the schools that use the MAP test to kind of help their students grow. And again, as I said, this was last year for this student when they were a second grader, the fall of 2022. We can see how they did in the middle of the year, or what we call the winter, in the winter of 2023, and we can see how they did last year in the spring of 2023. Again, I believe this is a third grader, so this would be all these three were the reports, their scores on how they did when they were in second grade. Well, this year, of course, they're a third grader. And so we can see how they did at the beginning of the year with the fall of 2023. And we can see that this student scored on the math test a 198 RIT score, 198. They were scoring above the district average for third grade at that time in math and the national average also as well. And then if we scoot over a little bit, hopefully you can see this, but the bar graph, what they took just in January, the winter of 2024, how your child did. Again, the blue bar is your child, and the top is the RIT score. Again, remember the RIT score is similar to like you are measuring the height. What we really want to see is a progression over time that our students are growing. Now, toward the end, you can see that we have what is projected. Now, if we just keep things going the same, this student on the math map test is projected to get a RIT score of a 210. So a 210, that is a projection if we just kept doing things go. Some students score above that projection, and some maybe just a little bit below, or they're right on it either way. Now, below the bar graph, you will see some performance areas that we like to look at. And actually, when the teachers get the reports, they can go a little bit deeper. But we can see how this student is performing in certain goal performances for math. So we can see in their numerical representation and relationships, they were scoring high. They're doing really well in geometry and measurement. And we can also see how they do in algebraic relationships, or data analysis. Now, teachers can get a report and they can see if they're scoring high. But if my child is scoring low, then they can also see, okay, these are areas where I can help them to grow in these goal performance areas. Of course, then below that, as I stated, you can see how your child did on the readiness map assessment. Now, again, you can see what they did for last year, the previous grade level, and then how they did at the beginning of this year, which would be the fall of 2023, and how they did in the winter, which they took in January, and what their projection will be for the spring. Now, to the right of the bar graph, you'll find a chart, and this is another thing that I like, and we call it the student progression. But you can see how this student, again, this student was a third grade student, but this student has been with us all the way since kindergarten. So they have taken the test 3 times. We take it again in the beginning, which is the fall, the middle, which is the winter, and the spring, which is, we call it the end of year assessments on math. But we can see how they progress each year and how's they grown. So this year, I'll try to hopefully this is highlights for you. But in kindergarten for this student, they started at a RIT score of a 150 in reading, and they moved up all the way to a 161 on their RIT score. So they basically grew their RIT score by 11 points, which is pretty good. That's what we want to see if our children are growing year after year. And if they're not, then like I said, teachers can dig into the assessment and see where we need to help each individual student. And then poof, just like that, I changed what the test looks like. You like how I do it, the editing techniques. I took a class in college about that. Anyway, now, as I said it before, if your child is in kindergarten, or if they're new to Alton, your report's going to look a little different. Now, here's an example of a kindergarten, what a kindergarten look like. We did not take the MAP test at the beginning of the year for kindergarten. We use a different type of assessment, but kindergarten will take it. They took it for the middle, and they will take it again in the spring. So as you can see, there's not really anything much to compare to. We can't show progress because this is our first time to take it. But again, we can see how they did. Again, for this student, they scored a they scored a 164 on their RIT score. Again, the blue bar is the student. The gray level for this one, the district kindergarten average was their RIT score with an average of a 151. And nationally, across the United States, of all the kindergarten students that take this test, the average was a 150. Again, you can kind of see the same thing. This student is scoring above the district and above nationally. They are also scoring high or high average, another goal performance. Below, we can see their reading scores. And again, to the right of the bar graph, you're only going to have one area because, again, this is kindergarten. It only is going to show for one time of when they took the test. And again, that was when they took it in January. Again, like I said below, I have shared a quick reference guide if needed. And before I close out, before I leave, I want to clarify one thing, parents. This assessment is just one of the many tools that we use to help your child grow. It's important to remember that this assessment is not the only way we measure your child's progress. We use a variety of different methods and assessments to ensure that we are providing the best possible care for your children and helping them grow each and every day. And as I said at the beginning, if you have any questions about this assessment, please do not hesitate to give me a call. Thank you.